Okay, we're live, but we got to let it breathe just for a few moments here while we bring on Facebook, and let's hope StreamYard has that squared away tonight. Tonight is not the night to mess with us on this StreamYard, and we are good. I mean, good as it's going to get anyway. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Gut Reaction episode, the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, disappointed as you all are. I was hoping tonight would be a joyous celebration of the Broncos finally officially snapping the missing the playoff streak. Zach, Chargers are like, nah. Bo Nix outdueled by Justin Herbert. Sean Payton outcoached by Jim Harbaugh. Broncos do not clinch. Chargers move ahead. Your gut reaction.
Uh, I'm so sad and mad inside, Chad. I'll say what I tweeted right before we went live. Sean Payton got out coached in the second half. VJ got out coached all game. The refs were awful. That about sums it up. It was clearly PI on that Marvin Mims deep ball, but on that deep ball, Bo Nix underthrew him. They played conservative and scared in the second half. The running game disappeared. But to me, if I had to boil it down to one factor, the defense and Vance Joseph lost them this game from the opening whistle, Chad. They were completely ineffectual. They could not stop Herbert on any dropback. They could not get pressure until the second half. And we talked about this on previous podcasts. For as good as the defense looks, they're still led by Vance Joseph. And when you have VJ as your coordinator, these games are going to happen where they completely, the bed. There's so much we can get into, but this kind of brings the VJ hype train to a screeching halt, at least in my view.
For me, it brings up, as I was kind of talking about before we went live, it brings up some some post-traumatic stuff that I thought had completely been buried. I think of how the 2008 season ended. All you got to do with 3 games to go, Mike Shanahan and Jay Cutler, is win one, and you're in the playoffs. They don't do it. Tim Tebow's Broncos, they manage it, but by losing the last 3 games and backing into the playoffs, I'm like, nah, this team's different, and I still believe they are. But tonight's loss and the way they lost, Zach, brought up those ghosts from the past, let's call it. Taylor Christensen jumping in to say, guys, we threw that game away. Offense struggled second half. Defense and VJ and Sean let us down the entire night. Zach, you were right about VJ. Very concerned going forward. New England game all over again. Also, says Taylor, thank you for a second super. Game showed we're not ready. I hate to say that. Well, I mean, when Sean Payton's he's got to like write a note to himself on his play calling sheet, run
Yeah.
the ball, exclamation. No, I don't want to take too much away from Payton, dude. I've been glazing him all year long. Let's not forget, what was it, a 4-game winning streak that just came to an end? I mean, the Broncos have been doing well. It's unfortunate that they chose this game to lapse, and it's what, Zach, even more frustrating. We'll get to the supers, but everything goes your way for the most part in the first half. You put 3 touchdowns on the board on your first 3 drives. Bo Nix is cooking. But when did the momentum shift? I was getting a lot of hate on this on Twitter, but it was the savvy, I'll say it again, Jim Harbaugh calling that timeout at the end of the second quarter, and that whole freaking series that led to Tremont Smith running into the returner. They get the freak field goal. Hey, thanks, suckers. It was all Chargers from that point on. Like the universe, Zach, like shifted on its axis and went. If it was like this, tilting towards Broncos, it went. And then like third quarter rolls around and then it just went boom, fully 90 degrees pointing to the Chargers. Jason Kopp, what's good, bro? Tale of 2 halves, indeed. Disappointing loss. Need to make better in-game adjustments. Still proud of this team. On to the next one. Merry Christmas, guys. Same to you, big dog. And Zach, that's very true because normally we're lamenting that it takes too long to pull their heads out, especially offensively. This time they jumped on the jugular, and then the defense let them down. And then when the defense was getting gassed, couldn't get off the field, Bo Nix had no answers for him, Zach. And then we'll grab Naj.
You mentioned the Tremont Smith penalty. The Broncos, you can blame the refs, and certainly I think there was one accepted penalty called against the Chargers, but the Broncos were so undisciplined, and that goes back to what, Chad? Coaching. Usually the Broncos are a second half team. I thought in the first, I thought it was going to be a blowout based on how they were playing. And then you're right, that field goal, give them the extra 3 points at the end of the half, flip momentum. But for the people saying VJ's not the problem, how do you come to that conclusion? We've seen that throughout the course of his coordinating career, going back to when he was even the head coach of the Broncos. We saw it, there were shades of 70-20 on that the dagger touchdown drive at the end of this game. You go back to the New England game last year, and then tonight. Whenever the Broncos need it most, I've been screaming this for 2 years now, VJ's side of the ball, for the most part, collapses. It was a team effort, but I think that the defense, Chad, was the culprit here.
I hate being the guy that points to refs. I think it's, for the most part, overall, a loser's ethos. But that's what we are today. Broncos are losers. So I guess I'm justified here. But, Zach, you brought up one penalty. As the 10th most penalized team in the NFL going into this game, they had 81 penalties, Zach, to the Broncos 89. And it was, I mean, one play in particular, and then I'm going to grab Naj, that completely negatively swung momentum was that no-call PI on Marvin Mims. It's like, I love Brandon Perna's tweet. He's like, the first short pass ever where the receiver goes up to get it and the corner runs into him, PI penalty ever that was not called in the history of the NFL. And it's true, it was totally PI. Was it underthrown? Yes. Did that somehow factor into the decision not to call it in real time? Synapses are firing, you're the refs. I don't know. But Zach, they were throwing that yellow laundry left and right against the Broncos. They kept it in their pockets for the Chargers. Naj, thank you, bro, for your patience. Love you. He says, very disappointing. Once again, got away from the run game. Terrible end to first half by Peyton. Complete failure by the defense in the second half. I don't want to lose total hope, but the D playing like this, we won't win another game this year. So the Broncos defense, here's what's alarming, Zach, is it's not just this game. They got bailed out by 2 ridiculous plays by Nick Bonito in consecutive games.
Yes.
But if you go back to Cleveland, over 500 plus yards of offense, you go back to last week against the Colts, and even though the Colts, Zach, didn't put up a huge number of yards, they jumped on them early and they had them on their heels. And again, if you don't get lucky with Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball on the goal line, what are we talking about today? And then here we are in week 16 Chargers, and again, it's this pattern of the defense losing its poise. The whole bend but don't break thing. Hey, dude, that doesn't work when the chips are down, because the opponents you're facing, they're going to break you if you're bending that much.
It was the same thing that we said last season, Chad. When the Broncos weren't creating turnovers, the defense was exposed for what they are, and that's ineffectual. And Naj, you're spot on with everything you said there. The only thing I kind of disagree with is in the second half, the defense was awful all game from the opening whistle. Whatever Herbert wanted, Herbert got. They missed tackles. They blew coverage assignments. By the way, Cody Barton and Sternad, Jags to the highest nth degree, Chad. I cannot wait for the Broncos to get an elite inside linebacker. I feel like we've been saying that and screaming that for years now, but this is who VJ is. And it answers the age-old question. Is it the personnel or the scheme? When you allow 500 yards to Jameis Winston, and last week you mentioned Anthony Richardson, that game started like today's game started for the Chargers and lasted. Whatever Richardson wanted from the Broncos defense, he got. You can't blame the absence of Riley Moss. The Broncos have too much talent to let a team go right down the field like a hot knife through butter.
Plus all the tropes about, Herbert's got no one to throw to. How about 9 other dudes besides Ladd McConkey that caught passes tonight? 10 receivers. See, that's missing the forest for the trees when you have an elite quarterback. Elite quarterbacks, they don't need Jerry Rice at all the positions. They're going to find a way. Patriot text. And by the way, Naj, I wouldn't even come close to even broaching the subject of losing all hope. I know you said I don't want to lose all hope, but that shouldn't even be a discussion. Are we concerned? Yes. Is it alarming that they had life on a plate tonight and they just couldn't take the bite? Yes. You're going up now against two of the most elite quarterbacks in the league to close it out. It's not great, but Joe Burrow and company don't have much to play for, Zach. And the Chiefs could be. Go ahead. You were going to say something about the Bengals.
They still have Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. Burrow's playing fantastic football this year. They have a good running back in Chase Brown. They're still going to go out there and compete, Chad. It's going to be a tough test for the Broncos defense.
It is, and the only hope is, look, credit Bo Nix after back-to-back games of multi-interceptions. He plays a clean one, delivers you a performance in the first half. That's a winning performance. Gets up to whatever. He's 22 touchdowns on the season or whatnot. But the whole flow, his play in the second half, it was horse crap. But now you got to then face, after, depending on what happens in Cincy, you come home, and it could be a for all the marble situation against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs if they play Mahomes. So we'll take that one day at a time. Patriot Tex, this was a travesty of bad coaching. The defense game plan, I think, sucked. Chargers looked like Detroit tonight. Why did Peyton go away from everything that worked? Is he smart enough to not fix what isn't broken? Well, I think it's not even necessarily totally Tex that he went away from everything that was working. It's that the Chargers adjusted and he didn't have a counter punch.
Exactly.
Tex, he goes on to say, also worried that Nix is shrinking in the clutch. He did tonight. I think we just made the playoffs disappear. I don't trust Peyton to beat Cincy. I don't think so. I'm not jumping on that train. We keep hearing all year long, this team is different, Zach. And if this team is different, then it's different than last year. And all these previous teams of the past 8 years that failed to execute and get it done and make the playoffs. I'm not giving up on that because you lost to the Chargers. Chargers are going to the playoffs, dude. I'm not giving up on that. But you're coming off a 4-game winning streak that just gets snapped. It was 4 games, right? That was your wake-up call.
Yeah, I mean, they could still clinch if Miami, I think Cincy and Indy lose or tie on Sunday, but I didn't want the Broncos to back in to the postseason. I wanted them to punch their own ticket with authority, and to go out there on national television when you have all this momentum in the first half and end up getting swept by the Chargers when it was basically a home game for the Broncos, completely unacceptable, Chad.
Guys, lots more to get to tonight. But first, look, the Broncos didn't go the way we wanted it to, but you still have a Week 16 slate of NFL games to get your fantasy on with Underdog, because Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players, compete against other players simply by selecting higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
And with their champs game, you can win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher or lower than 237.5 passing yards next week? Will Nix have higher or lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
That's right. So download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown. Just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right, back to the conversation we go. Colton Parkinson, what's up, buddy? He says, said it all year. VJ always will be a fraud. Tries to reinvent who we are every time we play a good quarterback. Zone is crap. Herbert is hurt. Blitz for God's sake. Yeah, a lot of missed opportunities, but at the same time, guys, I'm not here trying to absolve VJ. But, in the spirit of the other guys get paid too, it's not just that Herbert gets paid too. Guys, we can't forget he's a badass. He's a badass. But I hate that the Chargers under Harbaugh swept Peyton in year one. That really, let me get that off the screen real quick, Scott. That really chaps my hide.
Wasn't so much of a badass last week. And to your point about Sean Payton not adjusting in the second half, well, the Chargers came out with a game plan on offense that VJ just never had an answer for, Chad. They did blitz. They never got home. They couldn't stop him on third down, couldn't get off the field, couldn't tackle. Except for the Chris Abrams drain pick, the defense did exactly nothing good tonight.
I'll say this. It was kind of fun. And this was Bo's last chance, his last real chance. I'm not counting garbage time. But when Drew Sanders gets that sack in the fourth quarter and you're going, yo, there's our boy. And I think you texted something like Sanders greater than sign Sternad or something. And I'm like, yeah, just the pop and the explosion and the twitch and the speed at which he plays. If he's together between the ears, I mean, it makes sense to get him he's a playmaker, dude. If you're looking for a difference maker, that dude could be a difference maker, but is he up to speed between the ears? NVS time. Sternad is a liability. Also, Nix has to make that pass to Mims. He does, but he also got screwed, dude. Again, I hate being the guy to talk about refs. It's usually something that can actually trigger me when people get too much on that. But that was a huge missed call, not only because it wasn't called and it was evident and obvious and blatant, Zach, but at that point in the game, the Broncos needed a little bit of spark and hope and momentum. And it was a first down play. Nix puts it up there. It's short, but they clearly interfere. If they don't interfere with him there, Marvin Mims is going to catch that ball. But he holds onto his arm and runs into him. Arm up, doesn't even get his head around, doesn't get the call. That was a dagger. But, Zach, after the Sanders sack, Bo Nix, that was when you had to pounce. That was your last chance to make it happen. And I think they got to that curl third down. I think it was something like it would have been like 4th and 4, 4th and 5. Should have gone for it, dude. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but the Chargers, well, I think it was that next possession, the Chargers drove down and got that touchdown from the 2-yard line. Amazi, what's up, dude? Hi, Chad and Zach. What annoyed you? Offense stalling, defense breaking down, 27 unanswered. Can you give grades for Peyton, Bo, the offense, defense, special teams? Zach, give them your grades.
Well, let me just add one thing is both things can be true about the last comment. It should have been PI, but Bo Nix had him. Marvin Mims was open by like 2 yards. It was underthrown. So just kind of bad all the way around. Grades.
Underthrown and thrown late. If he sees that, or he just didn't see it in time. By the time he got there in his progression and threw it, you needed to be way out in front, not like duck ball, like, let's hope something good happens here.
Yeah, and Sternad's also a liability. He is what he is, a special teamer. Cody Barton's also trash. That's why he was a free agent. The Broncos need an elite middle linebacker. But grades for Sean Payton, it was an A+ in the first half, and then the second half was an F. So what does that average to? Like a C, D+. But also, what hurts Payton's grade for me is that they were so undisciplined that the penalties, Chad, and shooting themselves in the foot. So I'll go like D+ for Sean Payton, and I guess we'll get to Chris.
Yeah, I would say Bo Nix, I'm going to give him a B-. You could totally dock his entire grade because he failed to deliver in the clutch, but you'd be missing the enormous advantage he gave the Broncos in the first half that him and the rest of the team squandered. Defense,
F.
That's an F. That's an F. Chris, dude, whoa. Holy smokes, I'm sitting here like thinking about what Zach's just saying. Here we go. An enormously generous super chat from
Thank you, Chris.
From our dog here, from our legendary mythical super chat superstar. He's showing you the math. Whatever the Broncos points score times the number of wins. So generous. Thank you, Chris, dude. Love you, bro. He says, first, a positive. The run game looked better. It did early. Yeah. Everything else, gross. Long week to prep for the Bengals. Got to see better coaching decisions and play execution. Go Broncos. And, long week. You get 9 days this time, Zach, instead of 10 because the Broncos got flexed to Saturday. But that's more than enough time to get your ducks in a row. And yes, the run game did look better. I'm hopeful about that. The flow of the game thing, though, Peyton just all it took was all it took was in the third quarter, Zach, on 2 possessions, the Chargers stopping the run on first and second down, and then Bo Nix just not quite being in the zone. And then all of a sudden, you just don't see the field as the Chargers just march up and down, up and down. So that goes back to me as like a flow thing, and Peyton needing to better and quicker recognize when it's time to try something besides just this, I'll say it unfortunately, mindless, edict, run the ball, exclamation, exclamation. Well, situation is important on that. Like not just like down and distance, Zach, but just flow of the game. Who's got the momentum? What kind of play do we need here? And I think he missed that. But the Broncos, 9 days, Zach, to get their crap together for the Bengals.
In another nationally televised game, by the way. Thanks, NFL. And genuinely thank you, Chris, so much for that amazing support. I just, to your point about decisions and execution, why, if Estime was working or Watson was working, did they keep rotating and shoehorning Javonte, who's completely a cut below them, I shall say, into the mix? I understand wanting to rotate the running backs, but you also have to ride the hot hand and ride the momentum. So you wonder sometimes how Peyton can look so good in one half and bad in the other half. I feel like he just outsmarts himself, whether that's out of ego or him thinking he knows better. It's just he plays not to lose, or he calls games not to lose, and more often than not, they lose.
Chris, dude, thank you so much, bro. And I think another reason why the Broncos why there were so many lapses today, because it's not just an inability to execute like on offense, but you had Ben Powers get penalized twice for dumb stuff. You had Bowles getting penalized. You had nothing other than those offensive line penalties, Zach. There weren't like big offensive gaffes and snafus. Defense, though, it was one lapse after another penalties, breakdowns in coverage. And yes, you got to point to the coaches for the lack of poise. But I also have to wonder, it's like they feel it. Imagine how we all know how we feel right now. We knew how we felt going into this game, that pressure, that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach of how bad you want a thing, right? You want this win so bad because of what it means. And it's kind of like Chris Farley and Tommy Boy, Zach, with the little bunny, right? Right. And he does the thing. He loves it so much that he just kills it, right? Yes. That's what happened tonight in the sense, in my opinion, it explains the penalties, the discipline lapses and everything. Is I think the Broncos were a little tight. They just wanted it too much, to a point it made them press a little bit. Merry Christmas to you, Papa Bear. Much love and respect, big dog. Everybody, let's keep our chins up.
You got any chicken wings? I'll check. Nope. All out. Good movie.
Yeah, Chris Farley, R.I.P. The Ronk, good late evening. Chad and Zach on the My Huddle podcast. Gut reaction. Go Broncos. Yeah, brother. That might be the first time it wasn't a go Bo Broncos of the season, Zach. Like,
yeah,
maybe. But Bo Nix, guys, for what it's worth and for posterity, he goes 29 of 40. So only 11 completions on the night, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, rating of 106.6. And he also gives you 25 yards of rushing on 3 totes. That was one of the things I think, again, Zach, all of his rushes were scrambles. It would have been nice to see Sean Payton in certain situations, and there were opportunities where I'm like, really? That would have been a great spot for, a RPO where he reads the D end and then either gives it or runs off. He's not using that. I don't know what it was. Maybe he just wanted to use that, Zach, on the running stuff for Bo Nix, the planned calls for running to kind of, I don't know, get him through a stretch, loosen him up, get him in the flow of things. And he's now at a point clearly where he's seeing the field way better. He's a good quarterback, dude. He's got 22 touchdowns plus 5 more, 4 rushing, 1 receiving. He's giving the Broncos 27 touchdowns from scrimmage as a rookie. Clay Wise, both BJ and Peyton absolutely got out coached in the second half. Yeah, dude. And there are a lot of coaches, Zach, that wouldn't have called that timeout at the end of the second quarter. They would have just been like, yeah, we're getting our asses kicked. Let's get to halftime. Not Harbaugh, dude. And I hate it. because I respect it. It's a hateful respect. If you've ever seen Get Him to the Greek, what you've said just now has made me hate you. But the courage with which you said it has made me respect you. So it is a hateful respect. And that's what it was for me, Zach, with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, and about Bo, I mean, he certainly wasn't great in the second half. He got a little skittish, and there was nothing deep, Chad. No deep attempts, and except for the Marvin Mims. It just shows, though, the lack of supporting cast around him. I mean, when his starting running backs are a fifth-round pick or an undrafted free agent, and who's his other receiver except for Cortland Sutton? Vele, and he still doesn't have the chemistry down with Troy Franklin. He needs some help, but certainly wasn't so great in the second half. And when he doesn't get that help, and is forced to do it on his own, and then you don't get the play calling appropriate. And we said this last week too, Chad, that in weeks 1 and 2, he was calling a certain level of play for Bo Nix that wasn't conducive to success. And then in the middle of the season, he was running more college concepts. You saw the RPOs, you saw the design runs. He went away from that again tonight. So this is another example where Sean just outsmarts himself, and it cost the team.
Yeah, this is one of those nights for me where it's like, man, I wish I could be in the live post-game presser and hear how he approaches this and he explains it. I predict he's going to be a little bit short tonight, or he was a little bit short tonight. I'm sure that's in the books now. Miguel, what's up, bro? Appreciate you. Great to see you. What's up, guys? How was Lad always open? Missing Moss big time. Going to need him next week. Yeah, and there just was a lot of zone coverage again, guys. This, again, is a symptom of the Moss absence. Let's hope all those reports that he's back for Cincy were correct. He's got a whole remaining week and a half to get there, but I don't know. I think, Zach, it was a lot of miscues. When you go zone, dude, you better be aces on your communication or else you're going to get brutalized. And with very few exceptions tonight, the secondary, Zach, got smoked. I mean, really, the only play that was made was by Chris Abrams' drain on the pick. And I don't just point to it because it was a takeaway, but it really was the only noteworthy play the secondary made all night, and that includes PS2. Right-wing nut job, an absolute embarrassment of a game from an embarrassment of an organization since Super Bowl 50. Everything on the line, and we wet the bed. This is the New England game from last year. What an effing joke of a franchise, Zach.
The last statement's a little hyperbole. They're still 9-6, and we all would have signed up for that just to put a little, positive spin. But to your last comment, Chad, I don't really think it's a Riley Moss thing. I think it's a VJ thing, because how often did we scream last season and into parts of this season of not using enough bump and run? We talked about that on Thursday's show, I believe. I want man press coverage. I want, bump and run. And this zone is not conducive, I hate to use that word again, to what the defense can do with its abilities. But also, I want to give credit to the Chargers. You mentioned, and it's true, they get paid too. The other team gets paid too. McConkey is going to be a very good receiver, and Herbert was on his game tonight. So you combine those two factors, you get what you get.
A rare example of the Broncos losing the turnover battle and, forget what I was just going to say. Winning the turnover battle and losing the game. Eric Flynn, I just can't. How did we fall apart so badly? I know, dude. People, and that's the thing is, and I'm not exempt from this. I mentioned it at the top of the show. I was talking to the boys about it before we went live. It's easy in these scenarios to start drawing parallels to the past, especially traumatic situations like the New England game last year. As I mentioned, I'm the one that haunts me the most really is 2008. And all they needed was one win in the final 3, and they make the playoffs. You kick the Shanahan-Cutler can down the road at least another year, but they fail. And it's easy to do that because you're disappointed, you're worried, you're anxious, you feel like you just need one more break, one more positive twist of fate, and you can fully break out of this curse of a last 8 years. Whatever John Elway did, Zach, to deliver Super Bowl 50, whatever deals he made, we've been paying the price. And it's easy, though, when you're feeling like this, to draw those parallels. And I'm not saying that they're not true or that you're wrong to do it, but don't overreact too much, because I do believe, if I've said it earlier in the season, guys, I got to stay true to it. This is a different team. It's different leadership. It's a different quarterback. It's different across the board, and I think the Broncos will bounce back from this.
Yeah, Antonio is saying here, and I appreciate the support, Antonio, with the 4.99 super. Chargers caught us in another trap game, but we got to have that one. We'll be all right though. I don't think it couldn't be a trap game. A trap game would have been like the Falcons or the Panthers. This is a good Chargers team that's going to make the playoffs. Divisional game on prime time. The Broncos had everything at stake, and they came out with so much energy and so much intensity, and they looked like they wanted it more. It was the opposite of how last week started. And to a previous comment a couple minutes ago, I can't believe they fell apart. I was looking around saying, how is this possible? We were up, what was it, 21-10 at one point in the first half, and you go on and they score 34 unanswered. It's wild. So not a trap game, but definitely a letdown game from your Broncos.
And guys, let's remember, it's week 16. The last game the Broncos lost was the 10th of November, week 10 at Kansas City. So let's not pretend that and they had a little bit of a streak before that. Not too much of a streak, but win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose 1. So 4 games. In order for them to miss the playoffs, they would have to do something that they haven't done, at least this year, and that is lose more than 2 games in a row. And we could go back and look at last year. I don't remember, Zach, off the top of my head, if we had a 3-game losing streak. We might have to close it out. I'm not sure. But I just don't expect that to happen. It's disappointing. They had it. This was their chance to, they're still in control, though. But this was it. They had them early, man. Jumped on their throat with 3 consecutive touchdown drives. Has that ever happened, Zach, since Super Bowl 50, since Peyton Manning? Have we ever put 3 consecutive touchdowns on the board to open a game? I don't know. But it doesn't seem like we have. And then you go on to lose the game. Again, I think they were pressing. I think they were a little too tight over. I want that so bad, like Tommy Boy, killing the little rabbit. Jordan T. Peyton needs to call a better game. Only the D has done more than expected, i.e. scoring points or getting turnovers. Offense can't even control the game with the run. I wouldn't say that the offense has not done more than expected. The offense has exceeded expectations basically since the Tampa Bay game. Throw away the game at MetLife and the weird rain and the whole thing. Okay, so we'll just say like week 5 on. The offense has done nothing but exceed expectations, and it's still imperfect, and it's still a work in progress. It's a rookie, and it's a lot of young guys. That doesn't absolve Peyton, though. Yeah, he needs to call a better game, Jordan.
And how often have we said that? And I don't know if I jinxed it or whatever, but I said after the 3rd touchdown, I said, I've given Sean Payton a lot of crap for his play calling. He's been outstanding tonight. I don't know where that went. I don't know how you watch film from the first half and completely go antithesis of what got you there in the first place. A lack of a running game and calling plays that are made in a phone booth. And what I mean by that is you give yourself such a small, finite window, either in the middle of the field or on the sideline. No creativity to open the things up down the field, but that goes back to the lack of weapons that Bo Nix has. Who is he throwing the ball to if not for Courtland Sutton?
Jordan Lewis, disappointing, guys. Penalties really hurt, and the Sternad penalty was deflating. I really wanted to clinch tonight. Cincy and the Chiefs won't be easy. No, they won't. And if you go in there tentative, like now doubting yourself as a team, doubting whether you can actually get this monkey fully off your back and snap the streak, they will sense that like sharks with blood in the water, dude. Like, you got to go in there, even after this loss, you got to go in there with some swagger. You got to play confident, but not so uptight that it leads to lapses. And again, Bo Nix delivered a pair of kind of stinkers, even in victory. I mean, you pass for 130 yards and you're picked off 3 times and you still throw 3 touchdowns. I mean, there's so many anomalies in that. But he has shown a tremendous resilience and penchant, Zach, for the bounce back. So even though on paper he played well, and I would say for 2 of the 4 quarters he was aces, he was great, it still was a loss. So thus, it's going to require a bounce back, even at the quarterback position. So far, he hasn't disappointed us. He finds a way to bounce back.
Yeah, I Sternad, I got a lot of crap on Twitter for saying he's killing the defense, and you could say it was ticky-tack, but if Herbert's sliding, don't go anywhere near him, because if you make contact, even if it's incidental, they're going to call it against you. It was just undisciplined. And one point about Bo Nix, Chad, wasn't great, but he's still a rookie. These things are going to happen. What is VJ's excuse? The guy has been a coordinator for years. He's been a coach in the NFL for probably over a decade now. What is the excuse to let a hobbled Herbert with one decent receiver and no starting running back because Dobbins is hurt go down the field and get whatever you want over and over? There is no excuse. That's just who VJ is, Chad, and he is killing this team in these kind of losses.
The biggest killer, honestly, is the Broncos defense on third down in each of the last 3 games. Tonight, the Broncos offense wasn't very good on third down, but they batted around their average. They converted 38%, 5 of 13. That's been about their average. Meanwhile, the Chargers converted 6 of 12. They were 50%. The Broncos really just struggled to stop them on third down. And a lot of those third downs that were being converted were part of the comeback in the second half, where it was just a hot knife through butter. You take that, the Chargers finished with 380 total yards to the Broncos 355, 61 offensive plays. If you would have asked me and just said, hey, which team had more offensive plays tonight, I would have guaranteed you it was the Chargers. No, Broncos had 2 more plays than the Chargers, but the Chargers averaged 6.2 yards per play, per gain, I should say, as opposed to the Broncos 5.6, and it all comes out in the wash. The Broncos did, though, Zach, get over 100 yards rushing today, so that is a step forward. That's a positive. Unfortunately, the Chargers rushed for 117. Cody, Sean's play calling, horrible in the second half. Defense was clueless. VJ leaves everything that's been working, just like he did with the Ravens. Yeah, and just nobody could make a play. In the critical moments, I'm talking throughout the game, Zach, third down, red zone, and then late in the game, with the exception of Drew Sanders' sack and Chris Abrams-Drain's interception, because they were driving there. He was on the 25 when he uncorks that, trying to score a touchdown. Abrams jumps under it. So they did make 2 plays. One of them was early in the game. Man, second half, they just could not defensively make a play, nor could the offense, for what it's worth.
They don't adjust on defense, and that's the problem. Or they don't readjust on defense, I should say, is when you get counterpunched, where is your counterpunch? All VJ has is his blitzing, and when it gets home or forces turnovers, it's great. But when it doesn't, they get caught with their pants down like you saw tonight and so many other times in the VJ era.
And none of the key front 7 guys that we've come to rely on this season were able to really affect things. Zach Allen played well overall, I will say. But in terms of sacks, DeAndre Tillman and Drew Sanders, 2 sacks. Bo Nix was sacked twice. Herbert was sacked twice. But that's disappointing, because you had Benito with a chance to move up in the sack champion, ranking, so to speak. You still have Jonathan Cooper, Zach, sitting at 8 sacks, just dying to get to double digits. It's not looking like it's going to happen for Cooper based on the last handful of games anyway. When's the last time he got a sack? Grover, the officials did us no favors in the second half, agreed, but we did none for ourselves either. Hopefully we show up and play like a playoff team next week. Hope you all have a fantabulous holiday.
You too, Grover.
Denver Broncos for life. Yeah, you too, Grover. And we'll see you before then. We'll be on Sunday. We'll be on Monday. And then Tuesday's Christmas Eve. Wednesday's Christmas. So we'll be seeing y'all. Don't worry. But in case we don't, Grover, back at you, big dog. Chris Hernandez throwing down again after his already massive, generous super chat to remind everybody, hashtag, click those little thumbs up. You see it? It's little. It's like this on your screen. Make sure you hit it. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, you don't hit that, you wound me. All right, you hurt my feelings. Hit that. Hit that. Thank you, Chris. Love you, bro.
Thank you, Chris, as always. The GOAT.
Scott is just trying to bait me into more Tommy Boy impressions, and I will just my naughty. You're naughty. I could go off on that. How about If you want me to take a dump in the box and mark it guaranteed, I will. I got spare time. So many one-liners, dude, in that movie. It's a legend. Sam Bam. Broncos beat themselves with dumb and unnecessary penalties. That is all. It's true. And unfortunately, in this particular situation, it was not offset in any way by the Chargers ever getting penalized. One. I don't even remember what it was. But the biggest killer, Zach, was the no call PI on Mims.
Yeah, but credit again to the Chargers. They had a plan on offense, and Herbert executed that. One of his most efficient games I can recall him playing, Chad. And you got to have an answer on defense, even without Riley Moss.
Thank the football gods for Tommy Boy, so we have some comic relief. You know why they call it comic relief, right? You're relieving the tension. You're relieving the drama with a little laughter, with a little mirth, levity. Naj, again, bro, thank you.
Naj.
Our savior has to be Riley Moss, because I think we got this one. Because VJ calls a different game. Yeah, we did get this one. Love you, Naj. And you're right, dude. We can only hope. Well, let's see. When was that? That was in Vegas, right? Where he got hurt. So in real time, hold on, I want to count this. That was November the 24th. So he would have missed, if he went to IR, he would have missed Cleveland. That's one. Indy, Chargers, and he would have missed Bengals. So if he doesn't come back for Bengals, they've been wasting a roster spot for the last month of football. Saints fan jumping in. Thank you, bud. Good to see you. Number one, terrible defense. Two, too many flags. Three, Bo needs wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, I think he's made a lot of hay with the guys he has, and it's been good to see him kind of pull and carry some guys, Zach, and elevate some guys. But you only games like this make you just go, man, what if he did have another guy like, to complement Sutton, like a legit guy? Vele's solid. He's going to be like a Tim Patrick, handy when you need him. He's not going to be a take the game over guy. He's not going to be a guy that is a threat to take it to the house anytime he touches the ball. And that's the kind of guy the Broncos need, Zach, to help build that nest around Bo.
Deanna, wow. 1 second. I want to make one point. To Naj's comment about Riley Moss being the savior, you have the best corner in football. You have one of the best pass rushers in football. You have the best nickel backer, one of them in football. What does it say that he needs Riley Moss in order to save the defense? It says that he's not a very good coordinator. And Bo needs a receiver. He also needs a running back or two and a tight end. He needs a lot this offseason, Chad. And that's been the case all season.
Let me grab this from Tex real fast. Been too many years, he says, on the struggle bus. I thought this team was different until it wasn't. Really discouraged tonight. Have a Merry Christmas, Chad and Zach. Better days are coming for the Broncos.
You too,
don't
Patriot.
be that discouraged, dude. You don't dwell on the discouragement until it's absolute, dude. If there's hope, and there is, all the Broncos have to do is win one more of their two games they're in. Then lean into that. It's okay to be discouraged. I understand why you're disappointed. We're all disappointed. What I'm saying is catch some shut-eye tonight, shake it off, because the Broncos are more than still in this. It's not like they got a snow. You want to be the Colts right now, hoping for a prayer, like begging for a statistical anomaly. They have zero control over their playoff fate. That's not the Broncos. The Lady D with a max out YouTube super chat.
Thank you, Deanna.
With her, she's also bummed, as you can see here, and yet here she is throwing down in the spirit of, I would think anyway, this season and what it's about, in all honesty. And Lady D, love you. Hats are off to you. I don't know how we got so fortunate and lucky to have you as part of our community, and it's just a pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you, Deanna. She says, so bummed. Defense, what the heck? On to the next game. Merry Christmas, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Hashtag MHH for life. Merry Christmas to you as well, Lady D. Give our best to your family. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with you a little bit Sunday or Monday, but in case we don't, thank you so much. Love you. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Deanna. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Happy everything. You deserve it. Thank you so much. And so what you were saying, Chad, about the Broncos needing to win one more game, they could still get in Sunday if those teams I mentioned earlier, Miami, Cincy, and Indy, all lose. But the discouragement comes because we wanted, or I'm speak for the audience here, we wanted the Broncos to take hold of their own playoff destiny. You mentioned the winning streak they're on. It's a divisional rival primetime game. You wanted them to punch their own ticket and kind of charge into the postseason, not back in or need another team's help. So I understand the disappointment for sure.
Is that a fact? Run through the scenarios again this weekend. They could still, is it Miami?
I think it's Miami, Cincy, and Indy need to lose or tie, all of them, and the Broncos are in.
Okay.
I read about it the other day. I can look it up real quick.
Look it up. I'm just curious. So for what it's worth, Cincy plays the Browns in Cincy. Did you say Dolphins? Who was it again?
Cincy, Dolphins, and Colts.
Right. So Dolphins play the Niners in Miami, and then Colts get the Titans. So, it's unlikely that that's going to happen. Zach, up in Canada, north of the 49th parallel, proving Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is still, and in fact, a state of being. Thank you, pal. OMG, the more I saw Javonte as the game progressed, the angrier I got. Well, listen, dude, Javonte, for what it's worth, like, I don't necessarily think this is the game to crap on Javonte. He averaged 6 yards per carry, better than any running back. The only rusher the Broncos had that averaged better was Bo Nix on scrambles with 8.3, and he also gave you 29 yards on 7 receptions. They were all the little dump offs and whatnot, and he gave you a nice little heads up play in garbage time where he picked up like 12 yards and run out of bounds. Like, I get it, but the reason you saw him so much in the offense, Zach, late in that game, it's pretty evident. It's because the chips were down and the Broncos coaches trust him. Who was getting the majority of the totes early? It was Audric Estime, and he was making hay. He picked up 48 yards, Zach, 5.3 yards per carry on 9 totes and a touchdown. But when the margins got thin, he doesn't have that trust yet.
I just think they keep him in and they trust Javonte because of his pass pro, which he does better than Estime or McLaughlin or Watson. But in terms of explosiveness and ability, I mean, he was being outclassed by the other running backs. And that's why I feel like Peyton cut off his own nose despite his face by trying to rotate the running backs instead of riding Estime or riding Watson. You insert Javonte, it's 3 yards usually, except for a couple plays and a cloud of dust. And it's hard for the offense to overcome that sometimes, Chad.
This was, so Donovan Rios, what is this team's obsession with not throwing beyond the sticks on third down? I wouldn't say it's an overarching theme of the season. I think it was obviously a theme tonight, though. And Nix has been pretty good on third down. I mean, you look at a lot of his different football metrics that go beyond just the box score, and he's been really good at moving the chains. This was just one of those games where I don't know, Zach, if it was the way the Chargers were playing coverage, if it was his decision-making a little, maybe he was pressing, maybe he didn't want to. He's coming off 5 interceptions in the last 2 games. He's trying to play it a little too safe, but not too safe. He did throw the ball deep a few times today. I mean, at least twice. So I don't know. Your thoughts here for Donovan.
At least twice is pretty sad, though. It should be not once a drive, but once every other drive. You have Troy Franklin, who I can't understand why the chemistry with Bo Nix remains off. They hooked up so often in college on the field, and they just can't get it together in Denver. Mims is a speedster. There's just nothing creatively down the field. And when you confine Nix to playing horizontal east-west football or forcing a tight end to break 5 tackles and pick up 8 yards, I hate when plays are called short of the sticks. And to the comment, it's been the case a lot, whether it's a Bo Nix thing or a Sean Payton thing, just can't happen.
But here's the thing. I'm going to push back a little bit. Almost all of the big plays the Chargers made tonight were guys making short passes that make a guy miss and pick up the yardage.
Because they knew the guys would miss, though.
Maybe, but that's how the NFL works, dude. I'm not saying that that anyone's wrong for wishing there was a little bit better vertical push. I agree. It's that I think the Broncos, they basically tried to rely on the situation in the same way that the Chargers did. Hey, we got guys. I mean, they've had some momentum. All the stuff Marvin Mims has been doing. different things, making guys miss. It didn't work out for him, and there was no adjustment. There was no like recognition of, okay, these Chargers are tackling hella good tonight. I better make sure on 3rd and 8 I'm throwing, past the sticks. It would have been good to have that awareness. And for what it's worth, I'm going to grab Brian. Check this out, Zach. This is perception for you. 3rd quarter, Audric Estime, Blake Watson, then shotgun pass for Bo Nix, incomplete. Complete to Franklin. They move the chains, so then they get another series. Bo Nix fumbles the snap, whatever. Mims recovers it, or however that worked out. All right, then short right to Adam Troutman, picks up 5. I'm trying to find the rushes. The next carry is Estime again, -1, incomplete field goal. Then it goes to the Chargers, long ass drive. Come back to the Broncos with 3 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. It's Blake Watson. And then the quarter's basically over because they have to punt. You get to the 4th quarter, and now you don't have a choice, dude. You got to throw it, basically. They go to Javonte Williams in their handoffs, and the rest is history. In the 4th quarter no, that's not true. Audric Estime did get a tote in the 4th quarter for 7 yards, 5:56 in the game. Broncos, that's when they were down by 3. So Estime did see the field, but recency bias being what it is, we remember the last 2 possessions when the Broncos are playing catch up and all that Williams stuff. Guys, tough loss from Brian Smith. Didn't like how they fell flat in the second half. For real, how many passes did Williams drop, though? Come on, bro.
I caught myself like being too excited when he dumped it off to Javonte. I think it was in the first, maybe in the second half. And he actually turns it upfield and got the first. I think it was on 3rd and 10 or 3rd and 11. I shouldn't be that surprised, but that's what we come to expect from Javonte now, beyond just 3 yards and him falling down. But I still believe you have other weapons you can get the ball to somewhat. Use them. Don't just throw passes and check down to the line of scrimmage. Open the offense up a little bit.
And with the screen game stuff, it was working early, but then it wasn't. And when it wasn't working, you were getting 2-yard losses, 3-yard losses. Yeah. They were getting swallowed up. Kirsten Bailey, drummer, what's good? It's good to see you. It's been a minute. Kirsten says we've exceeded our 5-win expectations. On to Cincy. Yeah, absolutely. That's true. And the Broncos are going to win one of these next 2 games, guys. And you're gonna be feeling good. Trust. LV Foo Fighter. Whoa, with a generous super chat. Thank you, brother. So generous. Question, Priest. Does Peyton give up on the run game too soon, or is it our backs? I feel like he rotates them too soon. Well, we are your football priests, and we're here to offer you the absolution and answers to your Burning Broncos questions. And my answer to that, Zach, is he goes away from the hot hand too quickly. He needs to milk that hot hand till it's no longer hot. And I don't know how much of that is him, how much of that is a mandate from him that is given to the running backs coach to manage. And so the running backs coach has to kind of just assume that he wants a constant rotation. But while Estime was hot, he should have stayed on the field hot. And even Watson, Zach, he wasn't bad today. I mean, Watson got some action, and, well, I guess he was. He ended up 4 for 10, Zach.
Box scores could be deceiving. It seemed like every time he ran the ball, he was at least falling forward, getting positive yardage. He picked up a first down. But I agree completely, Foo Fighter. It's the point I made at the beginning of the podcast. They showed that graphic, chat, on the Broncos' first drive, all of the players that took a carry. I think it was 4 or 5, including Marvin Mims. But there was one guy who was consistently a cut above all of them, and that was Estime. And then when you kill your own momentum, you kill what the player could do for you. You hurt the quarterback by not having that consistent running game to lean on, or at least one guy to lean on. That's been his thing going back to New Orleans. I don't like it. I know the NFL is more than a one running back league now, but if there's one running back that's working, keep it going. Stick with it.
Definitely. Good question, though, Foo Fighter. Appreciate you, big dog. D-Bronx 14, on to Cincinnati. Exactly. We get some sleep tonight. The gut reactions here to help us all, including us. Work out the hormones, express it, get it out of your system. All right. And then focus up, because this ain't over, dude. Bo Nix and Sean Payton are not going to go quietly into that good night. Trust. I don't know if it's going to be the Cincy game. I don't know if it's going to be the KC game or both, but they are going to win one of these final two games and punch that ticket. Adriana, we looked like we rolled over and died the second half. Just was lighting our DBs up. Justin was lighting our DBs up. Also penalties every other play, and the offense turned the heat off. Yeah, you had the worst, the worst possible storm or confluence of events. The offense goes cold, and the defense can't stop a runny nose.
Couldn't do it all game. Fox Family Breaks, 999 Super. Thank you so much. Frustrating loss. That said, we will know a lot about our team next week with how they respond. Fortunately, everyone's, talking about Riley Moss. He did return to practice on a limited basis this week, Chad. And I think the plan all along was to have him back for the Cincinnati game. So if you're like Naj and you subscribe to the fact that Riley Moss is the glue and the savior to the defense, well, they should look better next week, but it's still going to be a tough test. It's more of the onus on the offense, though, because the Cincy defense, you talk about not stopping a nosebleed, they have been terrible this year. So it should be a game where the offense shouldn't struggle to put up points. They shouldn't go cold in the second half. Sean Payton needs a redemption game, and so does VJ.
But, guys, again, let's not be too harsh in our criticisms and castigations. The Broncos just won 4 games in a row, and their streak came to an end. Very unfortuitous time for the streak to end, but let's not pretend this 9-win team sucks, okay? It was a competitive game. They did blow a lead. We can go through all the arguments of how they should have won this game, and no one's wrong. But the Chargers, they didn't want to give it to them. They were going to make them earn it, and the Broncos didn't close. They did not close, and that was all the difference tonight. Jorge, tough game to watch. Seems to be we can't beat good teams when it counts. Crazy as it may sound, I think the playoffs aren't a guarantee. Dude, you know how long I've been waiting for someone to drop a guarantee in a super chat tonight, because I already used it earlier. So now I gave up that I was going to get it, dude. So I just decided to roll with it. But when Scott's reminding me of, if you want me to take a dump in a box and mark it guaranteed, I will. I got spare time. And I'm not trying to pick on you, Jorge, because you just happened to use the word that I've been waiting on for 30 minutes. When did you say that, Scott? 9:48. So, 20-ish, 30-ish minutes, and you brought it. So thank you for doing that, Jorge. Now I'm lamenting that I dropped it earlier and it lost all of its comedic gravitas. But, dude, of course it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. Broncos got to go out. They got to take it. They got to make it happen.
Can you do the butcher line next, Chad? You can get a good look at a T-bone by sticking your head up. Such a good movie. It really is so quotable. Jorge, nothing's guaranteed until they're in, but I think it's still an 86% chance that they're going to make the playoffs. They could back in on Sunday. They should be fired
Luke,
up.
I am your father.
Well played. Well played. Such a good movie. And I think they should use this as fuel for next week's game, and they should be pissed off. So it's not a guarantee, but it's still looking good for them. And Chad's right; it's still a 9-win team at the end of the day.
Can you fault a cat for a little gallows humor? All right, little levity. Joe, Estime has earned every single one of Javante's carries. Javante was decent at times in the pass game, but he's a drive killer behind the O-line. Man, a lot of hate on Pookie, and it's just kind of weird because this was one of his better games in the last 2 quarters of the season. So I don't know. He's kind of made himself, Zach, a little bit of an easy target.
He's just been completely ineffective this season. And that's why I said, the passing game, when he made a first down, I shouldn't be that surprised, but here I am.
Josh, wait, no. Yeah, it is. Boot Boy 90. Well, maybe not. I'm not sure. So pissed right now. Defense was nowhere to be found all game. Seasons like this do not come easy. A decade of pure suck. And here we are again. We better frickin' win in Cincy. No excuses. Well said, big dog. Well said, and amen. Amen. Broncos have bled to get the 9 wins. They bled to be in position to clinch with a victory, and they couldn't do it. It's one thing, Zach, if they played a clean game and the brand of football that has been their hallmark, it just wasn't good enough in this one. But nah, it was laps after laps after laps.
Yeah.
Blown this, blown that. Offense gets out to a hot start and then falls apart, doesn't close. Not falls apart in the sense of turnovers, but just can't close. That's the frustrating thing is we know this wasn't our Broncos. This wasn't the team we've come to know and trust in basically since week 5. D-Bronx 14, first supers, long watcher. Love you guys. Go Broncos. Big Dog, thank you so much. Welcome. Really appreciate you. Michael Ronquillo, great show tonight, Chad and Zach on the MHH podcast. Gut reaction, and now he's back. I love it. Now the world is right as rain. Go Bo Broncos. Foo Fighter jumping in again at the 11th hour. He's like, no, y'all can't leave quite yet. He says, hey, guys, I can't complain. This team has exceeded expectations. Let's go Broncos. Thank you for the glass half full philosophy and reminder as we wind down the convo. Because, yeah, the team has wildly, drastically exceeded expectations. Bo Nix was going to be a joke this year if you listen to the NFL. Can't do this, can't run, has no arm, blah, blah, blah. The broadcast tonight was gushing about Bo Nix up until about the fourth quarter. Then they're like, he hasn't thrown past the, but you got to be critical where there's material there to sink your teeth into, and it was justified criticism at the time. But yeah, Broncos, Zach, have almost doubled their over-under expectations from Vegas. Bo Nix, I think, still is going to probably win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Even though he's not favored, it's still Jaden Daniels. Expectations exceeded, but it's not enough. Let's fully exceed those expectations, Zach, by breaking the streak.
I thought the commentating, and I'm a big Al Michaels fan, but I thought the commentators were pretty, mid tonight.
They're not a good combo.
Wrong. No, not at all. They have no chemistry, and Kirk Herbstreit's more of a college guy anyway. And but they seem to be gushing not over Bo Nix, in my opinion, but it was Herbert. Like he's the only quarterback to ever play through an injury. They kept zooming in on his ankle, and he deserved it. But it is what it is. But one thing, Chad, I said to you before the pod, and I understand the frustration is I just want to cover. I want to see a Broncos playoff game. I've been covering this team since 2016. I haven't had a winning season until this year. Just want to get a playoff game. But the glass half full approach is true. They expected to win 5.5 games with the 6th quarterback taken in the draft, a second-round prospect, the second coming of Kenny Pickett or whoever, $80 million in dead cap. It's still a successful season if they don't win another game. But I totally get why the fans are, a little let down tonight.
All right, guys, we have a few messages for you. Then we're going to dip on out of here.
Cannot believe it's been over an hour. You guys make it so fun, even in a loss of the Mile High Huddle podcast gut reaction. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can also follow us, the main account, at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every podcast, check out mhhmerch.com. Get you some. If you haven't done so, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your Football Priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, 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 very important, you subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. Really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans. That's right, just like you.
All right, guys. William Shaw closing things out. Thank you, pal. He says, watching you guys helped. Thanks for the pickup. Thank you for being, because talking to you guys helped us too. Trust. Yeah. Justin Lloyd as well saying Drew Sanders needs to play. Too much talent not to. When he's on the field, good things happen. His speed and rush abilities are better than Sternad and Barton.
100%.
Agreed 100%. It's just a question of, does he have it between the ears? He's spent a lot of time not playing football this year. So and he's still young, like how much does he have down? We'll find out. Ronk saying the Broncos need to root for the Browns, Titans, and Niners this Sunday against the Bengals, Colts, and Dolphins. Amen to that. And then Boot Boy, it's me. Okay, it is Oi Boy. That's what I thought. Just making sure, sometimes the older I get, these YouTube profile pics, I'm especially when they're kind of hazy in sunlight. I thought it was you. Great to see you, Rogue Chaos 90 or whatever it is on X. It's been a great season at the end of the day. I just don't want to see it end on a sour note. We need to finish strong. No 60 bus. Yeah, no 60 bus for us today. Sucks, dude. I wanted a Roots Radical type of finale finish here, but we didn't get it. We didn't get it. Rancid reference. Sorry, guys. Punk rock. Oh, I guess it's my turn to talk still. Shout outs to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us keep the lights on. And I'm going to start with Chris. Just has been so ridiculously just supportive, gracious all season long, and appreciate you, bro. The Lady D from the tippity top rope, LB Foo Fighter, going off multiple times, top rope supers. Naj, huge top rope, multiple supers. All right, now from the top, Jason Kopp, Taylor Christensen, Patriot Tex, Colton. We got Colton, yeah, I want to make sure. NVS, Mossy, the Papa Bear, the Ronk, Clay Wise, Miguel, Nut Job, Eric Flynn, Antonio, Jordan T, Jordan Lewis, James Todd, Cody Dubb, Grover, Saints fan checking in. Not the first time either. Good to see you. Zach, Sam Bam, legend. Donovan Rios, Brian Smith, Kirsten, D Bronx 14, Adriano, Fox Family Breaks, Jorge, Joe, Chaos Josh. Let's see, D Bronx again, William Shaw, Justin Lloyd. Much love and respect, guys. If you want, I don't know about you, but when I need a little pick me up, music does it for me. So go watch the new Bridge the Gap music video and give it a like, and we'll give you shouts. I'll give you shouts right now. Here's the people who've already commented on it. Like and comment on the video. Like Diamond Rattler, like Michaela, like Strings. Who else? I'm trying to think. I don't have it right in front of me, but you'll get your shouts. Trust. I'm dropping the link. Go watch it. Give it a like. Love you guys. Keep your chin up. This too shall pass. On to Cincy, Zach. The Broncos can get this done.
Yes, we will see you Sunday for the aftermath episode of the Week 16 game. Have a great start to your weekend. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.